Vice President Kamala Harris, she's the least popular vice president, according to the polls, since Spiro Agnew, Vice President Spiro Agnew under President Richard Nixon. That's the most unpopular in almost a half a century. And just think about all the duds that we've had as vice president: Spiro Agnew, Gerald Ford, Walter Mondale, George Herbert Walker Bush, Al Gore, excuse me, Dan Quayle, Al Gore, Dick Cheney, um, Joe Biden, Mike Pence, and Kamala Harris. It's a pretty bad bunch of people right there. I don't mind telling you the best out of the bunch in a half century of vice presidents. The best vice president from 1969 to the present was Walter Mondale of Vice President Walter Mondale, the former senator of Minnesota under Jimmy Carter. Um, and he would have made a damn good president, but unfortunately, that never happened. So, people wanted Reagan in '84, and I'm still scratching my head about that. But anyway, yeah, Kamala Harris is not well liked. And it was. Here's the thing: when the 2019-2020 primary season was taking place with the Democrats, I knew that I was not the least bit surprised last summer when Joe Biden chose Kamala Harris as his running mate. It was exactly what I expect to happen. And I'm not sitting there trying to revisit the primaries, although I will in a moment because what I have to say is relevant. But the thing about it is that Kamala Harris she's not well liked, and there are reasons for this. And and I'll tell you right up front. I knew she was a corporate Democrat from day one. Uh, Knew that she had ties with Bill and Hillary Clinton. And in 2019, very early in the primaries, she tried to put on the show, and the others did too. They all were trying to imitate Bernie to a degree. And there were a few outliers out there, people like Joe Biden. He was there to say, "Hey, I am status quo. I am a corporate Democrat. I'm a mainstream cliche Democrat." Same thing with Amy Klobuchar. That was her brand. She was a mainstream, Democrat. People like John Delaney, same thing. So you had a John Hickenlooper. You had some people that they were pretty damn honest that they liked the way things been for the longest time with the Democrats, basically not standing for anything and not rocking the boat. So you had a few people that were at least honest about who they were. Yes, still don't like them, but they were honest. Well, but then you had the imitators. Elizabeth Warren tried to have it both ways, and she tried to be the imitator. When push came to shove, she decided that straddling on the line between being an insider and an outsider, she decided to go and be an insider when push came to shove. Um, Unfortunately, that kind of happened to Bernie too later on after the presidential primary was over. But the thing about it is, in 2019, Kamala Harris claimed that she was for Medicare for all. And when push came to shove and she was asked about it and everything, it turned out that she was not committed to abolishing private health insurance companies, which that's what Medicare for all is. And unfortunately, many progressives or self-reported progressives in the mainstream don't realize that. They think that Medicare for all is a more glorified form of Obamacare, And if that was the case, it would mirror maybe the German system or the Dutch system or the system in Luxembourg, Belgium, places like that, where it's kind of like they do have private insurance companies. They have a public insurance company system, and they work it out where it's actually efficient and available to everyone at a lower cost than the American system. One of my bosses last year, who's born in Germany, yeah, it's an American accent. He always lived in the United States all his life, but he goes back to Germany. And I was talking to Ben one day, and I won't give the last name, but. And I was like, ask him, well, ask him what the system was like in Germany. He gave me the description. So I said, basically, it sounded like a more efficient, more generous version of Obamacare. And he was like, you got it. And anyway, Kamala Harris did not know what Medicare for all fully meant. And same thing with Elizabeth Warren. Same thing with all the other candidates who claimed that they were for Medicare for all. So it just she started to get in trouble. But I feel like basically playing, I would say, playing my favorite part of the primary debates um, with Kamala Harris, just for old time's sake. So I just, and I'm going to comment afterwards. So anybody who gets triggered from this, just be patient, and I got something to say about it. So enjoy, because I enjoy it still to this, even though the controversial figure that you're going to see up there, I had my I had my personal opinions of. It's still important and relevant. So here goes. Oh.
Albert, you took issue with Senator Harris confronting Vice President Biden at the last debate. You called it a, quote, false accusation that Joe Biden is a racist. What's your response?
I want to bring the conversation back to the broken criminal justice system that is disproportionately negatively impacting Black and brown people all across this country today. Now, Senator Harris says she's proud of her record as a prosecutor and that she'll be a prosecutor president, but I'm deeply concerned about this record. There are too many examples to cite, but she put over 1,500 people in jail for marijuana violations and then laughed about it when she was asked if she ever smoked marijuana. She blocked evidence. That would have freed an innocent man from death row until the courts forced her to do so. She kept people in prison beyond their sentences to use them as cheap labor for the state of California. And she fought to keep cash bail system in place that impacts poor people in the worst kind of way.
Thank you, Congresswoman. Senator Harris, your response.
As the elected Attorney General of California, I did the work of significantly reforming the criminal justice system of a state of 40 million people, which became a national model for the work that needs to be done. And I am proud of that work. And I am proud of making a decision to not just give fancy speeches or be in a legislative body and give speeches on the floor, but actually doing the work of being in the position to use the power that I had to reform a system that is badly in need of reform. That is why we created initiatives that were about re-entering former offenders and getting them counseling. It is why, and because I know that criminal justice system is so broken, that I am an advocate for what we need to do to not only decriminalize, but legalize marijuana in the United States.
I want to bring Congresswoman Gabbard back in. Your response.
The bottom line is, Senator Harris, when you were in a position to make a difference and an impact in these people's lives, you did not. And worse yet, in the case of those who were on death row, innocent people, you actually blocked evidence from being revealed that would have freed them until you were forced to do so. There is no excuse for that. And the people who suffered under your reign as prosecutor, you owe them an apology.
Senator Harris.
My entire career, I have been personally opposed to the death penalty, and that has never changed. And I dare anybody who is in a position to make that decision to face the people I have faced to say, I will not seek the death penalty. That is my background. That is my work. I am proud of it. I think you can judge people by when they are under fire, and it's not about some fancy opinion on a stage, but when they're in the position to actually make a decision, what do they do? When I was in the position of having to decide whether or not to seek a death penalty on cases I prosecuted, I made a very difficult decision that was not popular to not seek the death penalty. History shows that, and I am proud of those decisions.
Okay, all right. Let's see. Okay, all right. Now I know. Um, at one time, I was a huge fan of Tulsi Gabbard. Obviously, not as huge of a fan as Bernie Sanders, but huge enough that I would say that I want her to be the VP or Secretary of State. I would say Secretary of State at this point, or Defense Secretary. Still would say that he would be worthy of a position in the White House, of a Bernie Sanders cabinet, under the provision that anything dealing with military matters, in spite of what her reactionary position is on transgender rights, which is the problem I do have with Tulsi Gabbard. Um, she's a turf, and I unfortunately that's the reality. But having that said, at least she doesn't want to kill people the way most Democrats and Republicans in Congress and most places of position of power do. And just like in the words of Nico House, he was once saying that a presidential candidate hated by Israel and Saudi Arabia might be a very good person for the president. Let's see. Of course, I think he was wrong about the presidency, but vice president or secretary of state or defense secretary dealing with military industrial complex matters, yes. But the point I'm trying to make is that ended the Kamala Harris for president campaign right there. She had to withdraw very shortly thereafter because of that exchange. And regardless of whatever reactionary positions and problematic stances of Tulsi Gabbard, it's undeniable. He was correct on those policy issues and burning issues of the day. It's still relevant to this day. And Kamala Harris was in the wrong. And all the things they have said about Tulsi Gabbard, with her ties to good Lord, what's the name of the name escaped me from India, oh gosh, the figure that's controversial or there right now. Anyway, Kamala Harris has closer ties to that figure, and I am at a blank. Let's see, India. I am in very much an apology because I cannot think of the name of that person. So I shall find out. Let's see here. Modi, that's it. That is it. Modi. She Kamala Harris is actually the ones with ties to Modi. More so than Tulsi Gabbard. They both got ties, but nobody ever talks about the ties that Kamala Harris has to Modi. But you know, and Modi is a mixed bag in India because there are certain states, regions of India where Modi had to go and interfere in predominantly Muslim areas where there was heavy discrimination against the LGBTQ community, and the Modi government wanted to protect the LGBT community in those areas. So while he's reactionary in some ways, there are some areas where, he's going to be, he's not totally unenlightened and totally reactionary. So, but the point I'm trying to make is that ended the Kamala Harris campaign, And as I said, she was the wrong person for the vice presidency. I will argue so was Joe Biden for the presidency, without question. And with my issues with Bernie Sanders these days, um, Bernie Sanders was still the best candidate in the primaries, and I don't care how you slice it or dice it. I don't care how you look at it. Bernie Sanders was cheated in 2016. He was cheated in 2020. Nina Turner, a few days ago, was the recipient of the kind of hack job that was done to her, what was done to Bernie Sanders in 2019, 2020, and what was done in 2015, 2016. And so it's just sad that that this is where we're at with politics. And as I said, Kamala Harris, yeah, I mean, she's just an awful vice president. Now, is she better than the previous vice president, Mike Pence? You bet your beetle boots, yes. Um, then again, Kamala Harris and Mike Pence are both better than the worst vice president I can think of in recent history, and that would be Dick Cheney, the man who masterminded torture in Guantanamo, and a man who's never met a war that he didn't like. So I can't believe that I can't believe that she's considered worse than Dick Cheney. Dick Cheney is as bad as it can get. But anyhow, I wanted to share that, and the thing about it is, if you're a Democrat and you're invested in keeping the Democratic Party relevant and in power, you should worry about this polls about the unfavorable polls for Kamala Harris, because if Donald Trump runs again, he I kind of don't think he's going to run, but if he runs again, apparently he will basically obliterate all the other Republican challengers in the primary because he's that popular. Um, and the thing about it is, there is cause for concern about 2022 with regard to how the Democrats are governing. If they don't become more bold and look out for working people and do too much overreaching and micromanaging, on the way to deal with COVID in ways that they're not financially benefiting from it, and they're being irritated by you know um, overreaching. The Republicans going to make a comeback. They're going to make a comeback with their pretend love for liberty, which is a farce, because the Republicans are pretty good about pretending to be for liberty. It's almost convincing. But once they get into power, you can see what happens. And all of a sudden, the censorship and authoritarianism shows its true colors when Republicans get the power. Honestly, as shitty as the Democrats are, when Republicans are in power, the authoritarianism is more pronounced when Republicans are in charge. And I would say maybe because it's the usual wrong kind of Republicans. And it's like when it comes to libertarianism, they're and they start to embrace certain aspects of Ron Paul or Rand Paul, they always run to the positions they're most cringy by Ron Paul or Rand Paul, and reject their better positions, like the foreign policy, the non-interventionism, or having a more enlightened policy when it comes to the drug war, where civil liberties would be protected. Those are the issues that these Republicans usually want to run away from. But when it comes to busting unions and privatization and tax breaks for the wealthy, oh my God, they're just loving that part of it. But anyway, um, it's likely that Joe Biden will not run for re-election. He'll be a one-termer, and that is my prediction. And maybe I'll be proven wrong, but that's my prediction right now. And really the Democrats got a lot to worry about because she's just awful. She really is awful. But then again, you know, what's new when it comes to politics? Aren't they all awful at the end of the day? Anyway, if you like what you heard, press like and comment. If you dislike what I have to say, comment anyway. Feel free to share content on this channel. As a First Amendment absolutist, it's my duty to inform you to create your own platform and utilize it because we're the muckrakers of our time. And of course, feel free to subscribe to this channel, hit the notification bell so you get hard-hitting social democratic commentary by yours truly. I am American social democracy. Peace and class struggle absolutely now.